Welcome back to Movie Speaks. Today I'm going to show you an action movie from 2022 titled Lord of the Streets. Spoilers ahead, watch out and enjoy. A car pulls in on a driveway as the resident sleeps. Two masked intruders break in on an unsuspected homeowner. Damon yells at them, causing one of the intruders to fire his weapon. He hides for cover as shots are being fired. Hearing the gun jam, he rushes one of the intruders, slamming him into the ground. As his father comes in to see what's going on, he was shot in the head. Damon chases him outside and lost control and beat the last intruder to death. Then suddenly the police shows up with sirens, placing him under arrest. As the mother watches and cries for her son and husband, knowing that he's up for a parole hearing, an inmate spits on his face to provoke him into a fight so he doesn't get out. He punches him, causing the facility to go into a lockdown. Jason is an MMA coach. He helps his students to prepare for their upcoming fights. He tells Trey to keep his hands up and when to throw a jab. Later, knocking on his baby mama's house all drunk, he wanted to know why they're not returning any of his calls. His daughter Stacy didn't want to speak to him, so she closes the door on his face before he could say anything else, turning to alcohol to numb the pain and reminiscing on the time he used to be a pro MMA fighter. He's haunted by his last fight, as he and his opponent are equally matched and going toe-to-toe in the octagon while the crowd cheers in the background. They both end up on the ground and Jason got his opponent on a headlock, and not knowing his opponent is trying to tap out. As he squeezes harder, thinking his opponent is not planning on giving up, suddenly his neck breaks and he has a vision of the guy telling him he was trying to tap. As he gambles with Kane, he tells him he bet all of his money plus $100,000, going all in on his bet, and shows him he has a full house. And Kane shows him the ace he was holding, winning everything. He tells Kane he doesn't have $100,000 to give, and Kane says one of his students have a big fight coming up, and word on the street is Trey's going to beat Brock's ass. But he likes the underdog and wants Trey to lose. He has money riding on Brock, so he tells Jason he don't like to lose. Not wanting to involve his student Trey, he declines going along with it, causing Kane and his goons to take out their guns, giving him an option to make it happen or to die here on the table. Then tells him he doesn't have a choice. While trying to get his parole approved, he argues being a changed man and learned from his mistakes, and the parole board brings up the fight with him and the other inmate and him throwing the first punch, and he argues the other guy spit on his face. She tells him part of being rehabilitated is to know when to walk away, and with that in mind she rejects his parole and gets escorted outside the room. While Trey is working out, he approached him to get ready to tell him about his situation, and that's when one of his students reminded him about his appointment with the prison program. Having no choice, he tells them, "We got to talk when we get back." While arriving, Hiller complains and said he doesn't know why they even bother with this program. And Jason said his father was wrongly convicted. He received 30 years before he died on the inside, so this is their way of giving back. Being a professional MMA fighter, he gives the inmates an opportunity to see what it's like to fight a pro MMA. The rules are no hit below the belt and not getting too aggressive, and he drops the guy and said he's trying to match his energy because he's playing dirty, and hits the inmate with a mean hook before his opponent cuts him with a shank for feeling disrespected, causing all the other inmates to go on a brawling spree. And Damon washed all of the other inmates, and he gets noticed by Jason with his moves and the heavy hitters while being led to safety. After getting patched up, he says the guy shanked him out of nowhere, and Jason scolded him about being a professional fighter and letting other inmates get under his skin, and the program was cancelled for what happened. Sometimes later, Jason comes back to visit Kane and said he doesn't want to get between Trey's big fight and seeing him shining in the ring. He asked to do anything else he could put that work in, and Kane said, "Okay, I want you to kill somebody," and watched Jason put his head down, then said he's just messing with him before his goons grab him and placed a bag over his head. While Jason struggles to breathe, he cuts the bag and said, "Do I have your attention now?" and he nodded and said yes before letting him go. While returning back to the gym, they noticed the door was left open and said, "We never forget to lock up." Inside, they notice Axel and his men pouring gasoline all over the floor, getting ready to torch it. Trey gets into a verbal altercation with them. While Jason tries to stop him, Axel said he doesn't think him and his boss likes his tone and shoots him in the chest. Not wanting to talk about this whole situation to the cops, a detective left him his calling card in case he wants to talk about what happened later. Then later, he gets a call from Kane and his goons about his money, and said he cost him some money, as his daughter screaming in the background. Now one of his best fighters is dead. Kane offers him a drink and he refused. Then he said, "You can't trust a man who let another man drink alone." He asked what he has to do to walk away with his daughter. Big promotion in a comeback fight. Jason Dyson returns. Just think about how great that would be. Jason said he ain't fight over a decade, and that was when one of the goons stepped up to fight Jason, telling him he would beat him the same way he beats his daughter, then threw a cheap shot, and it got personal after that. As the crowd cheered them, Alex threw a mule kick, dropping M to the ground, and was returned the favor afterwards. While both men are putting in that work and exchanging blows, Jason is a bit rusty and struggles to catch his breath while his opponent is just getting warmed up. He blocks a few punches and Alex finish him with a Chuck Norris kick. Seeing that the fight is over, Kane shoot up in the air to quiet down the crowd, and said this all will be forgiven. And Jason reminded him he's retired from fighting and his last fight was his last fight. It's been more than 10 years. Pissed, Kane said you still think he's a joke and pull out his piece on him. Then he remembered and said he's got a great fighter that's even better than him. He calls up Damon at the prison and said he wants him to fight somebody. Damon said he can't fight, he's in prison. And then he tells him he could get him out. After getting out, Damon said, "Thank God for corruption," and started training. In this scene we see Detective Keyes paying Kane a visit, throwing money at him, and saying he's just showing some love. He asked Kane, "You really want to see this fight, huh?" While they're training, Alex and his goons showed up and pushed the fight for tonight. Not being fully prepared, Hiller says they can't fight tonight, they at least need a week to get ready, and they've been working out non-stop and Damon needs to rest. And he pulls out his gun and shoots him. Sometimes later, before the fight, Alex tells Damon he has to fight 5 opponents back-to-back in a row, and his first match is waiting in a no-rules bare-knuckle fight. With Jason by his corner, his first opponent goes down easy. Kane yells, "Finish him." Having no choice, Jason gives the green light. Afterwards, he tells Jason he wasn't prepared for a bare-knuckle fight. His next opponent starts off by kicking him and knocking him around. He grabs one of his legs, knocking him out, barely winning. Injured, Damon said he needs to rest and he's leaving. And Kane says, "You either die here or you die in there, your choice." Then said, "Besides, you're 3-0, you're winning." Jason asked for his goons to put the guns away. Having a broken hand and having no choice to fight, he tells Jason he can't punch anymore. Tired, Damon struggles to fight his next opponent. He's knocked down while the crowd cheers in the background. As the guy's on top of him, Damon pushed his fingers in the guy's eye. And while he's up, Kane yells, "Finish him," and was dragged out afterward. He says his blood is on your hands. With very little options, they can't call the cops because they have his daughter, and looks in the mirror. Barely able to see through his eyes, Jason said this is the last fight, that's all he has to do before he gets his daughter back. His last opponent is better than all of his previous fights put together. Brock Belladon is an undefeated champ. Jason reminds him there's no rules. He struggles to stay on his feet. He keeps taking punch after punch, including kicks. He's barely able to dodge or even throw a punch of his own because his hands is broken. Seeing that his opponent is already weakened, he decided to finish Damon off. Jason rushed to his side and checked his pulse, and he was dead. Not a big surprise, huh? Now another blood is added on his hand. He looks at Brock. With anger and rage, the referee and guards hold him back. Kane said to him they still have unfinished business here. And he said there's no business here. The deal is off because you made your money back. Kane said you cost him money, and he said you didn't bet on Damon. Kane said it's not your business who I bet on, we made a deal, and the deal was for your fighter to win 5 fights. Kane scolded him for not holding his end of the bargain, wanted to motivate him more and wanting to make more money. He takes him to see his daughter and said he got a crowd and he's got a fighter. All he needs now is another fighter. He tells Kane he wants the fade after the fight is over. Being the only one left and both of his students, including an innocent man, is dead, he has only one thing on his mind. As he makes his way in the ring to fight Brock, he's barely able to manage his own. His opponent is giving him the business. Then suddenly Jason starts to fight back with a few punches and kicking, pushing back on his opponent, and suddenly the tables have turned. Now he's on top of his opponent, giving him that work. Kane asks his goons, "Where's Axel?" and he responded, "No one knows where he is." Before he could act on it, the whole place gets raided by the police with gun drawn and bullets start flying everywhere, leaving his goons behind to deal with the cops. He holds his gun to Stacy's head. Then suddenly he lets her go and said, "Let's settle this like men." And they both get ready for the moment we've been waiting for. As he takes off his chain, Kane wastes no time. Seeing that he can't take Jason on one-on-one, he takes out his knife on Jason. As he prepares to stab Jason, he caught the knife and slice him up like a fish. As EMT tells Jason Stacy's going to be okay, her mom shows up and hugs her. Jason said, "I told you I was going to get our princess back." Detectives Keyes shows up and said it's all over. Axel gave everyone up. With that in mind, they went home. In the movie ends with Jason training and coming out of retirement. If you like the video, please help the channel out by leaving a like, comment and subscribing for more content like this. Thanks for watching.